So I'm here with Megan Thomas, who is the founder of Level 11 Technology. And today we're going to talk about how she started her business and kind of her backstory and some of the things she's been focused on with her company. So Megan, thanks for coming on, and let's hear a quick intro from your side.
Okay, sounds good. I'm Megan Thomas. I'm the founder of Level 11 Technology. It's an apprenticeship agency, which is a business model like a teaching hospital, where my goal is to pay early career digital technologists like designers, developers, digital marketers to get their first year of experience. So I'm trying to build a gap or fill a gap in the market between people who've invested in themselves and gone to a tech boot camp but cannot yet find traction in their career. It's because they don't have real world experience.
That's awesome. And I think a good place to start will be, and we were talking about this a little bit beforehand, was kind of your backstory leading up to starting this business and kind of how you had your W-2 job and kind of things you went through to get to the point of launching this and getting this started.
Yeah. So I have been in the tech industry for 10 years. I'm actually a boot camp graduate myself. So in early 2014, I completed a full stack tech boot camp. So I learned Ruby, JavaScript, Ruby on Rails. So I entered the job market without having a degree and without having prior experience. And fast forward 10 years, now I've got 10 years in the career, 10 years in the job. I've been building HR tech, insurance agency management tech. I've been a product designer for a really long time. And I also have been an instructor for the UX UI bootcamp at UC Berkeley for 3 cohorts. So I've taught at this point over 200 students who have made that same investment in themselves to get those tech skills and to build a career that they can be really excited about. But none of them are getting jobs. Very few of them are getting jobs. So I saw that there is this opportunity to help people who are early in their career get skills and get like traction, increasing their socioeconomic status, which is what I was able to do. But I'm also seeing that there are companies who are just not able or willing to build an apprenticeship program, which is how I believe we get the seniors of tomorrow by training the juniors of today. So since nobody's doing it, I figured I would like to do that. And primarily, we're focusing on the grunt work of getting started in your career. We're not out here creating the next big sexy app. No, no, no. We are focused on the bread and butter of user experience primarily, which is the accessibility of websites, making sure that people with disabilities can access goods and services from the small, medium, and large sized businesses and government agencies that they deserve to reach the goods and services of.
Yeah, I think that's a great mission that, and a challenge you're trying to solve because it is hard. It's very difficult to get whatever career you're going after. That first step is probably one of the hardest things you can do to have somewhere you can go or a place to actually help you do
Yeah.
that. I think is definitely a really important
It's
thing.
so fun. And you asked about like how I was doing this as a W-2 employee. The goal was to continue to build this throughout 2024, like on the side of my desk by taking on really small clients and teaching the apprentices kind of like as we go. And my company, I think, was going through a bit of a soft layoff. There was some friction at the top. They wanted to bring in some more investment in, I think, generative AI, which is fantastic. So I got the opportunity. I was offered severance, and between the month of severance, a little bit of what was it? Tax return money, a little bit of tax return money, and then I still qualified for unemployment. And here in Oregon, there is a self-employment assistance program, so I qualified for that because I already had a business plan. So basically, that's how I've been self-funding this venture. I've not had to take money from outside sources, and I completely believe that once I get this little bit of flywheel effect started, it's going to be self-sustaining, and I'm going to be able to build, I would say, a good-sized enterprise.
That's awesome. I think the perfect example of leveraging kind of the situation you're in and these resources that you had in the moment and taking advantage of like a way to get this started because you don't
Yes.
need a lot of money saved. Like it's nice if you have that and if you can build that up on the side, but sometimes like a tax return or the severance and seeing that situation and be like, this is the perfect time to start. What got you to take the action to start? That's always one of the hardest things for everybody is like, what was the driving force that got you to say like, okay, I'm ready to start this right now?
Oh, 2 things. What got me started on the idea was seeing how much money that the boot camps were making. My last cohort had 65 students and they each paid about $15,000. And I did a little light math, not a math genius over here, but that seemed like close to $1 million that they were taking in. Granted, I don't know what their expenses were, but I recognized like the students weren't getting what they were kind of promised by admissions, which we will now call sales. And I was like, I want to help solve this. I really kind of fall a little bit in love with all of my students. They're my children until they graduate, and then they're my friends. And I just recognize we've got to do something different. So like the impetus had been there for a few years. I'd been churning and thinking, how do I do this? What can I build? How can I support them best? But it really was that opportunity to say, hey, this may not be the most ideal situation, but would you be open to taking severance? And I took that as a straight up, like a lightning strike. Like I knew that that was the universe saying, this is the time. You weren't really prepared for it. You were a little scared. You were definitely willing to put in the hours on top of your 40-hour-a-week job. But this gave me the opportunity to go all in and know that I was kind of safe in a way. My partner and I had talked about finances, and he was able to completely cover all of our finances for the period. So like knowing I would be bringing in no money for 6 months, that was the expectation. We knew that that was going to be an opportunity. We slimmed down the budget, and then I went all in. I was very good and careful about stewarding my resources. I didn't try to throw money around and buy tools that would help me do things. I really have built something that's really manual and kind of gotten out in front of people and like sold my ideas to these early career designers by teaching them something of value and building a following in that sense. And now I'm kind of like, all right, now we've got these folks who are excited about what I'm doing, what I'm building, and how to do the work. So now my next focus in the next 3 months is to find like that first really small client for level 11 technology, just to make sure that I can guide the apprentices through the real world work, not just like a fun project on the side no one's getting paid for. So that will be the true test in the next 3 months.
Yeah, and those are always things like you figure out as you go. I think you had a good point there too about keeping expenses low. You don't need to waste resources, spend all this money to get started. You can kind of find ways to be scrappy and get things done using your time or whatever resources you do have. Tell us a little bit about that. What's kind of your thought process there as you go and build this? Are you looking to raise money, or are you going to fund it yourself as you keep growing and using the money and revenue you're making and kind of reinvesting that back in? What's kind of your plan with that?
Okay. Love that question. Definitely not looking for outside funding. Part of my mission is kind of to demonstrate that we can make good money in this capitalist society that we live in without being extractive and exploitative of the people that we work with and that we hire. So, trying to save the world a little bit, but my goal is to self-fund this. So like I said, I've got a little bit of severance, that unemployment, self-employment program, and then a little bit of savings from my tax return. And that has allowed me to like really slowly continue to build what I'm building. So part of my income right now is teaching students how to do what I do. And I charge a really low fee. Like if you're unemployed or underemployed, it's $10 a ticket, and you're getting a ton of value from me in a live experience, seeing how to apply the skills I teach in a practical way, not like a high level theoretical way, but like, what does this look like in a literal boots on the ground kind of sense? So I'm taking in a small amount of money from students, but these aren't the people that I want to make money from. It's more about paying makes you pay attention. Like you're likely to show up. In fact, everyone who's bought a ticket has showed up and has leaned in to learn and ask really good questions. And my goal is to allow that income to just like slowly pool over here and basically build by word of mouth. I hesitate to say this because this is the opposite of business advice most people give, but I am truly building this business on fives. I am literally listening to my intuition, and that again sounds very woo-woo, but I'm not going to work with someone who isn't aligned with my perspective on how to run this business, and I'm not going to work with companies that aren't interested in accessibility. So it's very interesting to think about like what niche I want to focus on, because our services help anyone with a website. Like all people with disabilities should be able to access all goods and services. But primarily, I'm helping look at healthcare websites. They actually are required to be accessible by a law called Section 504. So if there is any healthcare website that is, or organization that is receiving federal funds, such as Medicare or Medicaid reimbursements, they actually have to have a website that is accessible. So we're going to focus on those folks. We're going to help more people by helping those businesses and help teach the apprentices. It feels like a win-win-win.
Yeah, and that's when you can create those kind of scenarios. I feel like that's when you're really in the best situation. And the point you had, I think it's the beautiful thing about starting a business and being an entrepreneur is you can do it your way. You can build something that either you would like to see or the exact way you want to do it. You have kind of complete control to do that. And really, even with your customers too, there's no reason if you don't want to take on certain type of customers that aren't the right
Exactly.
fit,
You
you're
don't
not
have to
stuck
work with
working
the
with
people
someone.
who do betting or whatever. Like, if that's not your vibe, don't do that. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely focused on like where can I make the most positive impact, and that's working out really well for me so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think in terms of growth, so it sounded like you're trying to experiment with niching down. So you're focusing on that. What do you see kind of the next phase of growth? Is there certain marketing channels you're looking to explore? Is it focusing on that niche and then kind of backing into everything else from there? What are you going to be doing coming up?
I love this question because I've actually had to recently acknowledge that trying so hard in one direction may be, in fact, working against me. So I've had to make what I would call like a 15-degree pivot. I have really been adamant that like I don't want to take money from the apprentices themselves. My goal is to pay them. But what I'm recognizing is that there are so many folks who need that career traction. It actually becomes kind of overwhelming because I cannot help them all. So my 15-degree pivot is for the next 2 months, I'm working on creating a course to teach what it is that I already know and that I teach in these live training experiences. And I'm going to create it so that people come into those live training experiences with more knowledge and more empowerment so that it's more about doing the work and how we would bring the UX process into that accessibility redesign rather than like teaching the basics every single time. So I'm actually freeing up my future time by creating this course in the short term. And through this course, I've actually got a couple of folks that are interested in working with me and interested in us, Level 11 Technology, rebuilding their website. And I am letting that sales process like find its way naturally. I'm not in any rush to do this because I have kind of bitten off so much with the course creation. But once that's done, and I'm expecting it to launch in mid-January, and it's actually going to be closely aligned. That'll be the beta test. And then it'll be closely aligned with the book I have that's publishing in March, which is through Mercury Learning. And it's all about practical UX. So the course and the book are essentially teaching very similar things. The book obviously can only cover so much material. The course will cover much more. And then I will have folks who are interested in what I'm learning, and I can focus completely on landing that first deal for Level 11 Technology. So it feels like I've got the next 3 months planned out. The only thing that would throw a wrench in the works is if suddenly somebody tomorrow was like, we want to work with you. We have so many monies and we want you to start tomorrow, because I would get a lot less sleep, but I would probably get it done. Not probably. I would definitely get it done. I would say yes if it was the right fit. But yeah, I would get a little bit less sleep.
Yeah, I think to your point, like you're kind of laying the groundwork for your marketing and your customer acquisition. So
Yes.
those things are only going to help you even more so as you progress. So I think it's
Yeah.
important not to skip steps sometimes. Like you're doing all these initial things to get this going. Now, I know we have to wrap up here. So one last question. In terms of your team and hiring, I know we were talking a little bit about your first hire. So what was that role? And then how did you identify what role to start with when you made that decision to bring the first person on?
What a great question. It was very hard. My partner asked me a couple of years ago, like when I was really starting to think about how do I do this business full time? What's my real strategy? He's like, who do you think your first hire would be? And I said, oh, of course, a junior designer, because my little want to fix everybody and adopt all the three-legged dogs, and I want to save everybody. I got a little bit of a savior complex, I think. And so I was like, oh, obviously a designer, somebody that I can mentor and I can pay. But what actually turned out is I need someone to help be my second second brain. I need someone to honestly manage me a little bit. I know that I've been making the joke a lot lately. The question, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And meanwhile, I'm over here going, how many pieces of elephant can I stuff in my mouth at once? And it's a bit overwhelming. It's causing me to choke a little bit. So my first hire has actually been who I now call my associate director of operations. I know in startup world we give people really good titles to start with, and I know she is going to grow into that. It makes me really happy to hire someone that I'm already close to. We have a friendship, but it's not so close of a friendship that we don't know how to work together in a business sense. And she is very much the opposite of me. She calls herself very much a square, very regimented, very organized. And I'm very much like, we're throwing things at the walls. There's Post-it notes everywhere. I'm having a great time. All of the ideas are flowing, and she has actually helped streamline how I'm getting things done, how I am meeting my own deadlines, my self-imposed deadlines, and it's honestly been the best hire that I could have made, but it was completely unexpected.
Yeah, that's huge. Finding that opposing skill set that complements your strengths and their strengths are other things that either you don't like to do or aren't your strong suit. I think that's
Yes.
a great way to go, and then you could kind of build from there.
Yes.
Now, let's close on this. So, where can people find you? Where can they learn more about your company? And where's the best place to go to connect with you?
The best place to go is literally my name, meganthomas.com. So MAIGENTHOMAS.com. That's where you can get links to if you want to learn more about the accessibility stuff and maybe be an apprentice. That's where you can find my Patreon and other things. But also my YouTube, my LinkedIn, come connect with me. I am very, very active on LinkedIn, a little too online, but that's about the only place that I'm super active. So please come find me. I would love to connect with any of your folks who are interested in starting a business or want to know more about why accessibility is going to help their business grow.
Awesome. And we'll link to all of that in the description. So, Megan, this has been fun. Thanks for coming on.
So welcome. Thank you so much for having me.